Practo. Siddharth, healthcare is a very dear thing for most people post-COVID, and Practo has scaled nationally and globally. Tell us about the journey, impact that you are creating, and how you're thinking India to the world.
Hey, thanks, Rahul. So we've been around for about 17 years. Practo began as a SaaS business. We were doing a ERP for doctors for the first couple of years. And about 10 years back, we started off our consumer offering, where today we help about 40 million consumers every year make health decisions on deciding which provider to go to for their ailment. That's the core business right now. Our journey internationally also began about 10 years back. So halfway through our journey so far, we took our ERP solution and we went abroad with that. So UAE is a big market for us, all of Gulf, UAE and even Saudi Arabia. We've had a local presence there, a local subsidiary, and we did not take a consumer offering there in the beginning. We wanted to make sure, just like the India playbook of starting off with SaaS, getting supply and doctors onboarded on the Practo platform, get them to use technology, eventually then make them available for consumers, because what our platform strives on is data. And the data generation initially happens through our ERP layer. That's the same playbook we've tried in the UAE as well. And coincidentally, just yesterday, we finally announced an official launch of Practo's B2C platform in Dubai. So we're live. A consumer in Dubai right now can open the mobile app and the website and actually look for a doctor in all of UAE. And we've had this baking as a pilot for a couple of months, but right now we've officially just announced yesterday. So coincidentally, we're talking about our international ambition. So it's just a beginning for us. I think that's the first market outside India where we think that the unique problem of consumers looking for reliable healthcare, that problem is uniform across the world, even though healthcare is very local, but the problem is very common. And we see amazing traction already in the first couple of months of our launch. We think 10% of UAE should be using us in a couple of months from now. So, and of course, we're looking at developed markets after that. Thanks.
No, fantastic. And great example, both of persistence and starting to now penetrate into international market. I'll switch to Pawan. I think I heard a very interesting stat. Now, gaming is bigger than Bollywood. I don't think we pay enough attention to the fact that it is so big. But Pawan leads a company, Winzo Games, one of the largest gaming companies. So Pawan, tell us about what does India play, how does gaming industry look like, and how do you plan to go global?
Thank you, Rahul, and thank you, CII, for giving me this opportunity. Just to quickly introduce Winzo. Winzo is India's largest social gaming platform. We have 250 million users who play our games in 16 different languages, predominantly from tier 2, tier 5 cities. Our business model is considered as something like a Netflix of games, though we are now tired of using Netflix as an example. But just for ease of understanding here, we partner with third-party game developers. We integrate games from 100 plus gaming studios from India, outside India, integrate them on a single application, and from a user standpoint, all they have to do is download our app, which is a super app of games, play any of these games in real-time multiplayer mode, and the content could be a casual game like Candy Crush, Carom, 8-ball pool, could be a mid-core game like BGMI, Free Fire, some other very heavy-duty game. The technology and the tech stack is such that at the single click, any game of any size built on any tech stack can be integrated on a platform and can be a part of the super app. Alongside that, it's a strong community play because these 250 million users that we have got are on the back of a very large community of game streamers. We have about 75,000 game streamers who basically stream on our product and help us distribute it and also send a very strong word of mouth. So this is the ecosystem that we've created. We are 7 years old, and very recently we've also gone live in Brazil. We launched Brazil last year, which is also coincidental because our Honorable Prime Minister in last year's Independence Day address, he mentioned that India, which is currently the largest consumer of games, should also be the biggest producer of games. So that is, of course, an extremely motivated vote, rightly coming from the top of the nation. And we've gone live in Brazil, already doing pilots in some other geographies. And being a pure tech, being a pure consumer-centric product, we feel the category and the industry in which we are, it's extremely fluid. Cross-border trade is extremely elastic and relatively much easier to scale. Even if you launch current, Google Store or App Store that you have in your phones, you will see that out of top 10 titles, maybe 5 titles will be from international products. So if those products and those companies, the Kraftons and the Activision Blizzards of the world can house themselves inside Indian Play Store, then why can't Indian tech and product, why can't Indian gaming companies or gaming studios can take this space in international markets? I think it's very doable and something that we are mostly motivated for, and that's what we've been building.
No, fantastic journey, and I think every Play Store in the world should have an Indian gaming app. I think that should be the ambition we should have for the sector. Let me switch to a very different company, Rajat, who leads Loham Critical Minerals. If you look inside EVs and many other applications that are happening globally, critical minerals is becoming very important. And Rajat has been at it of building India as an epicenter of critical minerals. So Rajat, tell us about the company and how you are shaping the critical mineral supply chain globally.
Sure, thank you Rahul, and thank you CI for having me here. Let me start with a question. As the conflict with Pakistan reached its peak, a lot of us again understood the importance of fighter planes in our defense strategy. Do you know what quantity of rare earth goes into one single F-16? Any guesses? How many kilos of rare earth go into one single F-16? Take a guess.
10.
10 kilos. Anyone wants to bid this up? 100 kilos. Any further bids? So about 500 kilos of rare earth go into one single F-16. And today 95% plus of that rare earth comes from China. That is a basic reality. So if we want to have a national security strategy, we cannot have it devoid of our own rare earth minerals. What is even more surprising is India actually has great reserves of rare earth along its beaches in Odisha and Kerala. We've just not been able to refine it. We've just not been able to convert it into magnets. We've just not been able to convert it into end products. My company, Loham, is today India's largest producer of new age critical minerals. We are India's largest producer of lithium. We are India's largest producer of cobalt. We are India's second largest producer of nickel. We are also amongst the largest producers now in the platinum group category and the rare earth category. We also recycle lithium-ion batteries and have the largest capacity outside of China, anywhere in the world, where we recycle over 20,000 tons of lithium-ion batteries. The entire domain of critical minerals is what is needed to basically help the entire set of modern industries, whether it is defense, whether it is electronics, whether it is energy transition, whether it is healthcare. Without critical minerals, we can't do much. And today the brutal reality is 95% of that critical mineral is being refined in China. All of you have probably heard Mr. Trump negotiating with Ukraine on critical minerals. Mr. Trump trying to acquire Greenland because of Greenland's good critical mineral resources. India actually is doing reasonably well in terms of the resources and reserves that we have, but we've not done well when it comes to refining capacity and converting into end product capacity. And that is what my company started out with. We started our journey back in 2018. In the last 6 to 7 years, we've emerged as one of the largest players in this category. Today we have customers across the world. Today we supply our materials to US, Europe, Japan, Australia, etc. We also take in raw materials from all over the world. What we are trying to establish is India can do well when it comes to refining, and India can be a very large player and a significant alternative to China in the critical mineral space. Thank you.
No, fantastic story of building from India and taking it global. Let me switch to another very interesting company, which is very dear to me because I've seen them from probably very early days. Dr. Subij, who's part of InMobi team and had a very interesting launch of Glance AI, probably global launch as well. So talk us through the journey, because again, at tech, there hasn't been that many companies who have been able to successfully build global companies. And InMobi has done it, and it was probably the first unicorn, fastest unicorn. Many, many kudos to the company. But talk about how the company was built, and then what can we do more?
Thank you, Rahul, and good evening, everybody. I'm very, very proud and truly privileged to be sharing this space with people who have big dreams and who've made this happen. It's such an honor to be sharing InMobi's journey with you, and Rahul especially for being such a great champion of us. We started in 2007. It's been a group of people who basically came in from UP, Lucknow, Kanpur, the works, every middle class dream, taking wings. And that's why this topic and this platform is so appropriate to share this story with all of you. I believe a lot of you are entrepreneurs. You're people who've set up businesses. The journey of an entrepreneur is a very lonely one. And Pawan, Soumya, and I have always been on, his co-founder, have been on 2 a.m. calls, agonizing over things that are way beyond our control and sometimes above our pay grade. When we looked at InMobi 2007, it started as M-Coach. In about a year, we pivoted to InMobi. They were looking at mobile-based solutions and very quickly understood that there was an empty space when it came to ad tech. Very few players, a true story that started in India, started from Mumbai. We're based in Bangalore, about 3,000 engineers. We're just opening an office in Lucknow. We have 350 people in SF. And what do we really do? We're one of the world's largest independent ad tech companies. That's a mothership company. In 2019, we started another company called Glance, and this is now literally the first page of every large mobile screen that you see on 500 million devices across the world. About 250 handsets in India, US, LATAM, Singapore, across 19 categories. You don't need to download an app. It keeps you updated. It saves data, saves devices. It's an opt-in feature that comes bundled with your Android device. A very, very proud moment for India. On 22nd of this month in Bangalore and 27th in Mumbai, I've literally just flown in, we launched something called Glance AI. So if you look at AI, and AI is truly the disruptor, Rahul, it's impacting every single sector as we know it. But Glance AI looked at something called commerce that we engage with. We created a new category called future commerce. It's now been launched in 140 countries. All you need to do is download the app. We're on Android, we're on iOS. Just key in a selfie and it'll start generating looks. You can try clothes, you can look at situations, you can look at occasions, and it doesn't just allow you to create fantastic selfies. It allows you to shop those products. We take that a step further. It's an algorithm that we've built. We're very proud to share that we're only one of the 4 companies that Google's shared its Gemini source code with. So that's the amount of trust that we bring. That is the amount of input that we have provided also in the Bengaluru as well as the northern ecosystem. So the joke was about 40 unicorns or sunicorns had started as part of Naveen's founder office. And that is really the story. So when we look at Japan, when we look at any other ecosystem, they don't just go in as a single company. From the West to taking on the world, there are 3 things that we solved for very early on. It was credibility, it was culture, it was consistency. And so InMobi, the mothership company, is technically not a startup. We're 17 years old, but Glance is definitely a startup, and a startup that's emulating every single challenge that the Honorable Prime Minister or the Honorable Minister of Commerce and Industries throws our way. So how do you take it to scale? How do you make sure that you don't just travel alone, you take everybody along with you, and you make sure that this ecosystem which we have created becomes a ladder that other people can lean in and count on you. So the power of Indian engineering, the power of collaboration, the power of co-creation, and the ability to do it right, not just lead, but also lead responsibly, also lead with values. And I'll stop here, but I do want to share this with you. We have about 70% of people who spent more than 8 years with us in our 16-year journey. And we have something called boomerangs. So you can leave in Mobi, but you end up coming back. It's a bit like Hotel California. So in a tech world where you talk about people and talent, investing in people is something that all 4 founders have done right. It is part of our cultural values. We are bold, entrepreneurial, but we lead with responsibility. So thank you very much for giving us this platform and this space to share our story with you. Thank you.
No, fantastic, Dr. Subhi, and I think definitely a company that all of us are proud of building a global scale unicorn. But I think we switch towards a company which is doing fantastic on the rural sector. So Nimisha, if you can talk about how you are changing the access to financial services in the rural, and some of the impact numbers that you mentioned were very interesting.
Thank you, Rahul. So good afternoon, everybody. My company, Radiant Ace Money, is a fintech company which actually provides neo-banking solutions to the underbanked and unbanked population. So we started in 2020, where we identify micro entrepreneurs in every rural part of the country, enable them to do the financial services to the people around them, providing them a platform, upskilling them to do this service as well as along with the service which they have. Even if you see like financial services, something very common which everybody are very familiar with, we provide the technological support behind UPI, POS machines, POS machines, micro ATMs, etc. Where if you travel to a rural area now, you can see a Kirana shop which is also offering financial services. So we do such kind of service in the tier 3+ area of the country. And another sector which we work on is the wearable payment accessories, where a ring or pendant or watch like wearables which you use can make payments for you. We are basically doing this to make the payment sector a little more convenient kind of payment, and as well as it is the safest payment method than directly accessing your bank account every time, because this is a preloaded system where you can preload money into a wallet kind of thing and connect it with your payment accessory. You can just go to a shop, tap your ring there, and your payment is done. So this is basically mainly focusing on the elderly people who face challenges with using all the technical applications or mobile banking applications to make the payment, where they can be very much easily made the payments for them. So that is our journey. Thank you.
No, fantastic journey, Nimisha, and I think you mentioned there was almost 1,500 crore worth of transaction that they did in 28 states of the country, right? So present pan-India and now thinking of going to international location as well. But now let me give Mr. Sohail Seth, who doesn't need any introduction, to talk about, he sees the entire ecosystem with a zoom out view, to talk about how he is seeing the Indian startup ecosystem developing and the ambition to go global. Sir.
Thank you so much. For all my fault, about a month and a half ago, with no reference to what Piyush Goyal was saying, I was quoted as saying 80% of India's startups are frauds. I maintain that. What I'm seeing here is exceptional. So let me tell you why I said what I did, and I will ask all these very brilliant people, one or two of whom I've known before. In my definition, and when Mr. Tata retired in 2012, he set up R&D investments. And the yardstick of determining a startup in my book is as follows. A, has it ever been done before? Not has it ever been done before in your geography or in Jharkhand or Chhattisgarh. Has it ever been done before? Does it fulfill a compelling consumer need? Is it a sustainable business? And is it a business that can be replicable across geographies? And when I look around the startups ecosystem in India, I find almost all of that replicable. And all of that is a copy of what has already been done in the West. So, for God's sake, I'm not saying what you people, not you people are doing excellent work, but a lot of people, today a guy wants to start a vada pav shop, he calls himself a startup. So how are you defining startup? In my book, startup is mired on 3 principles. A, it must be a technological marvel or a leap. Number 2, it must be a business that is totally unique and isolationist in terms of its non-replicability. And number 3, it's a business that makes people who work in it terribly proud. And I see a lot of the startups not fulfilling these criterion. And for a moment, please don't think I'm being cynical about India's startup and all that. I'm not. And I really don't care because I don't have the money to invest. And never will. What worries me is that the ecosystem, and again, this is not your fault, but the fault of your peers. The founders are rich, the companies are losing money, and yet the founders are buying Lamborghinis and staying in Amrita Shergill apartment or houses or whatever the hell it is. So the message that you send out is, it's cheap money that we access. Now there's this chap, Bhikchandani, who weighed in on the debate but refused to come on a public debate with me, which I would have loved. Because Bhikchandani said, oh, but SoftBank's always lost money. I mean, I can't, and I've had dinner with Masa where this gentleman who launched, what is that payment thing called there? Paytm. And I said in front of Masa, I said, you must be a really kind man. So he says, why? I said, he just bought himself a home in Amrita Shergill Marg. I'm not for a moment suggesting that founders must not be wealthy. Of course, you all are doing outstanding service. My thing is twofold, and to address exactly the question you asked. I think now Subi talked about it, this very elegant person who just spoke about the unbanked sector, spoke about it, Vrinda spoke about it. I think the scaling up has to be done at 2 levels. Number 1, because of India's diversity and India's size, whatever we replicate across other geographies must be seen as something that adapts itself to scale. It can't be seen as something which has limited innovation. Because you're not talking about a market like Finland or Philippines or Norway or Denmark. The second is that brand India is not being seen as a great startup universe. People are investing in our country because of the market size. Now here's my other question, and please don't take it amiss. If we are that sharp, we are that bright, we have so many bright people, why the hell did we not create a Facebook? Why did we not create a Google? Why did we not create all these? Now again you will say, oh, but India's, the system is messed up. I'll tell you what is messed up. Our education system is messed up. Number 2, in India, if you fail, your mother or mother-in-law will ask you to get a job as a bank employee or as an IAS officer, although no one respects IAS officers anymore. But that's what happens. Can you imagine if Steve Jobs was an Indian, there'd be no Apple except the one that would fall on his head, because his mother would say, beta tumse hoga nahi, tum naukri kar lo. So, do we need to change social mores, social pressures, our peer environment? I think, to my mind, I think we do. Please don't get me wrong. I have helped pro bono tons of startups. And I've not even, they very kindly offered sweat, blah, blah. I don't want it. Because I think I have very limited knowledge in the area of branding and marketing. If I can bring that to help my fellow countrymen and women, it's a great service that I'm doing. And they are offering me the opportunity. It's not the other way around. So for me, it's a big thing. Number 2, I still believe that the startup universe, whether it's through you, Rahul, or whoever it is. Now, I don't know about the lobbying group or this group or that group or association, but CII is a great platform. You need to tell people of what you've done in terms of changing lives. Currently, the startup universe is discussed only monetarily. It is not discussed in terms of how you've changed lives. And that's why you get criticized. When Piyush Goyal spoke about, do we want ice cream or whatever example he used, the point is, how are you changing lives of people? How are you changing livelihoods? And currently, whether you like it or not, you might say, oh no, it's a bit harsh, but it's the truth. Currently, any discussion around startups is only in 3 areas. One, have they become a unicorn? But there's a reason. The unicorn is a goddamn mythical animal. Agar banna bhi hai, become an elephant or a tiger, why do you want to become a unicorn? Number 2, how much has the founder made? Which is fine, because everyone is aspirational. Number 3, when will I exit? This is the only business domain I have seen where people enter with a view to exit. So people don't treat those businesses seriously. Now I said what I did, and 3 days later, those 2 Sardarjis, whichever company it was, who were parking money with their mother or mother-in-law, what is their name? Gensol or whatever it is. Whatever. Are there frauds in corporate India? There are many. But the startup system, to my mind, and each one of you, is seen as a great ambassador of India's technology marvels, of India's entrepreneurial spirit, and we as older Indians, not necessarily wiser Indians, actually salute your spirit. If you ask me, I would never be able to take a risk as an entrepreneur. I'll be honest. You all are doing remarkable service, but you need to now take it to the next level. And I would suggest 2 solutions. Number 1, create a brand of startups that have actually changed the way Indians live, the way Indians behave, and the way Indians consume. Live, behave, and consume must become the parameters by way of which you market these globally. And second, is if you have any unique startups, which are absolutely unique to the Indian milieu, Indian environment, talk about those. Currently what's happening is you all are talking in silos. Silos are good for cement companies. They are not good for the remarkable work that each one of you is doing. So I will doff my hat to each one of you, say you are doing remarkable work, but it's like a ship in the night. It sails, no one sees it. Now become a ship in the day, which has a strong anchor, tremendous stewardship, and can navigate the choppiest of waters. That will be the ultimate tribute you will pay to yourselves. Forget to India.
Fantastic. Thank you for the inputs, all the panelists, and some of the provoking thoughts on how do we steer the startup ecosystem to more impact metrics, as he spoke about, also staying away from valuation and focus on governance, which I know with CII we are doing a lot of work on governance, in particular with the governance committee and so on and so forth. In paucity of time, I'm going to have each of the panelists, and I'll go around. You've spoken about the companies, you have built successful companies, you're taking it globally. But I want to focus on a topic like how do you see your sector? Because we have almost like 8 sectors on this panel. That sector creating impact globally, and what could be one challenge that Indian companies need to overcome as a sector to play to become global leaders. And I'll start again with Vrinda. You know, you're starting from like probably 30 years behind in the semiconductor. I mean, world has been where it is. It's an uphill task, but your thoughts.
Thanks, Rahul. And I'll build on some of the data that Rajat spoke about. So, some staggering numbers. 60% of the cost of any military equipment today is made up of electronics. 35% of that is semiconductors. China's penetration of that market has increased 600%, including US defense supply chains in the last couple of years from 2004 to 2022. 600%. By 2030, China will have 65% of global capacity on semiconductors and electronics for defense. 65%. That's the beast that we're up against. Now, why India? India is the only country with enough skilled manpower to be able to compete with China. Why? Because since the 70s, American companies have come to India, European companies have come to India and set up huge tech centers over here. So our GCCs are finally paying off. 20% of the world's entire semiconductor design talent sits out of 3 Indian cities, Bangalore, Hyderabad and Pune. Qualcomm's 5G chip was 100% designed in India. So what needs to change? Indian product companies need to emerge and Indian capital needs to back them. Thank you.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I'll also give one stat related to this sector because I'm very passionate about semiconductor. By 2032, if we don't fix this, the import that India does of semiconductor will surpass the dollar value of oil import. So that is the critical nature. So today, I think everyone is familiar, oil import is one of the big drain on the country's forex. Semiconductor will surpass that by 2032. That's the kind of urgency with which this needs to be done. I'll switch to, again, Siddharth, your thoughts on healthcare and as a sector, what do we need to do to build global companies?
I think what's changed in India in the last 10 years is a lot more tertiary and quaternary care facilities are now available in the country. We have become a hub for consumers choosing India as a destination to get healthcare done. And of course, the government has been aiding that. But I think the technology access that could be possible isn't right there. That's an opportunity that we're also looking at. And how do we make these facilities, these amazing, well-trained doctors from the star institutes that we have, and the facilities that have now been possible in India, how do we make them accessible for people across the world and make us a medical tourism destination? I think that's one big category that Practo is also looking at, and I think it's an opportunity for a lot of tech players to come and emerge and grow the economy that way, because that's an export that we could do. So it's Heal in India and Heal from India. Those are two programs that Honorable Prime Minister has also spoken about, and I think that's something that is a huge opportunity area. Another area that we think is we have about 10 lakh doctors in the country. Practo right now lists about 5 lakh of them. And we think a lot of them can be delivering care through technology remotely. A lot of ailments that we now see, and thanks to India's regulatory view on the topic also, we're okay to do telemedicine for a lot of categories now, and its consumer mindset post-COVID has changed. That has opened up a doctor sitting in Kanpur treating a patient in Bangalore at an hour where he couldn't find access anywhere else. And Practo also enables that to happen. We could make that happen across the world, but there are then regulatory challenges around education, around privileging these doctors in the respective countries, which is something probably the two governments of countries can work together and figure out, and which country organizes which medical degree across countries. We have those partnerships with some of the countries, but that's something that could be expanded, and we could make our very large trained medical fraternity be available on the internet for everybody to take healthcare from. So those are two places I think we could do telemedicine and get patients to come to India and get healed.
Okay.
I've been a huge admirer of Practo, but my initial exposure to Practo was the appointment confirmation one would get from your dentist or whoever it is. JP Nadda, Sunil Mittal and I were sitting just now at the Taj Palace, the CI conference. And Mr. Nadda was talking about all the stuff that the health ministry is doing, which is amazing. So I told him in front of Sunil, I said, why don't we create one emergency number for all healthcare across India? Like you have a 111. And so I'm not blowing my own trumpet that I gave the idea, but why has no one thought about it, including me? And I advise hospital groups. But can you imagine if I'm in the remotest of villages where I don't have access to emergency medical care, using the powers that you young people have built of a digital India, if I can press a number which is enabled on any of the phones that we have, and Sunil Mittal confirmed we have more than 100% penetration. Why don't we do that? To my mind, that would be transformative, not from a business point of view, but from a consumer usage, consumer benefit, and consumer experience point of view. So before these guys wake up, why don't you do it?
No, thanks a lot for the input. I am sure you have a large market opportunity to unlock and create impact. So I'll switch to Pawan, and the question is very simple. How does every Play Store in the world have the top 3 apps coming from Indian gaming? What do we need to do?
Sure, very easy. Thanks, Sohail, for bringing in a lot more realism into the discussion, I'll say. Right? We were, of course, boasting about accomplishments and, we'll win the world, but thanks a lot for bringing in that realism. Just to extend that, 4 years back, we had achieved reasonable success within the Indian market, both me and my co-founder, and we decided to visit San Francisco to attend GDC, which is the world's biggest gaming conference. And this is the first time we are stepping outside India and checking out any other gaming conference. We've been attending the Indian Gaming Conference till then. And we felt so, we felt so dwarfed, as in the kind of work, the kind of cutting edge art, the way games are built, the way the science of game design elements were being discussed openly in similar forums. We felt that, but we came out extremely enriched. And then when we on our way back, we realized that exposure, of course, really helped us think global. That exposure really helped us improve upon our business, and the way we are thinking about scaling. But exposure is, I think, the single most important unlock that any entrepreneur can get, especially if they are looking to expand globally, right? We're talking about Indian games to hold top 3 ranking across all countries. I think exposure is the short and simple answer to that. What we've been trying to do, we, of course, on one side, we've sort of started establishing this program called Bharat Tech Triumph, as a part of which we accept game developers to apply for it. You can share your prototypes, you get an esteemed jury panel. We have ran 3 sessions, and then we take those contingent of 25, 30, 50 odd game developers to different parts of the world, right from Germany, Gamescom to GDC, to launch the India Pavilion there. Not that what that does is, of course, it gives a lot more exposure to those gaming entrepreneurs, and they know where they stand and what is required for them to compete and win in those markets, but also gives an exposure to those markets of what kind of stuff is being built in India. I think the sector in which at least Winzo operates, which is gaming, has 2 key pillars. One is technology and the other is art. If you talk about technology, I think Dr. Shubi already mentioned how Indian technology is second to none, what we are doing, the kind of scale at which we operate, right? I mean, UPI is the 8th wonder of the world. The scale at which we operate, all the backend systems are second to none. I think the kind of dividend pool that we have in terms of the number of engineers, again, is second to none. So that part is sorted. And as far as art is concerned, gaming, entertainment, and pure B2C content consumption can be a good driver for us to also export our culturally relevant content. Indian folklore, Indian stories, culturally relevant content, something that Korea did really well, right, in the form of K-pop, K-drama. What that also does is it really establishes a very strong soft power among the global consumption patterns. India is extremely rich from that perspective, and I think Indian art, Indian culture, when being married with the strength of Indian tech, can really come up with an extremely impactful product, extremely impactful companies that can compete with the Activision Blizzards and the Googles and the Metas of the world. It will not happen today, but it will happen if the right amount of exposure is given to the Indian entrepreneurs. So that's how we feel could be the recipe.
Oh, fantastic input there. So I'll switch to Rajat. So Rajat, what does it take? The 500 kg has to come from India, right? And maybe it is not only supplied to the jets in India, but globally. What needs to happen?
Sure, but before I address that question, wanted to quickly add to Mr. Seth's comment. One of the problems in the Indian deep tech market is our capital market. The private capital market is not deep enough. no pun intended, right? And until and unless we solve for the depth in the private capital markets, there are a lot of very, very talented entrepreneurs with a lot of great aspirations. They'll not be able to get their thoughts and ideas to a product which can actually be sold. So we do need a lot of depth there. And hopefully the good thing is models exist in the US, in China. The good thing is the Indian government is now paying attention to those models. How do those models come to fruition is to be seen, but we do need that before we get deep tech and quote unquote real startups emerging out of the country. Now, to address your question, Rahul, I just wanted to take an example, or just tell you a little bit, a small story. We started in 2018, and we had a competitor who I would not name, started around the same time in the US. In the course of our 7 years of journey, we've raised about $100 million. Our competitor raised about $1 billion, 10x the money that we have. Today, we closed last financial year with almost 1,000 crores in revenue and almost 120 crores in EBITDA. Our competitor filed for bankruptcy last month. What was the difference? The big difference, and I think both Vrinda and Pawan have referred to it a little bit, was the availability of talent. We had engineering talent available. We had design talent available. We had something as basic as construction folks available here to actually set up a brick and mortar unit and get it out on time. That talent was lacking in the US, and no amount of dollars could get you the relevant talent to do the work in the right time frame. That is a big core advantage that India has, and we really, really have to amplify that advantage. But where is the challenge? Again, Vrinda has referred a little bit to that. The Chinese ecosystem is way too deep, way too big. And, for some of us, if we weren't sort of almost foolish in our aspirations, we would have given up long back. We need the entire downstream ecosystem to get created in India. We have a big market. This big market can be served by Indian companies. That big market allows us to get to scale and then serve the global ecosystem. So we have everything here. We just need to think about the industry in a very holistic manner. We have to think about the sector in a holistic manner. And again, I'm quite encouraged by what the Indian government is doing today. It is trying to think about startups in a holistic manner, sectors in a holistic manner, not in isolated or silos, as Mr. Seth mentioned. We are trying to see whether we have the entire supply chain in the country, whether we have the entire value chain in the country, and if not, then how do we get there? So I think that is what is needed.
No, fantastic. Yeah.
I had one thing to add to that, and I think this is up to every Indian, right? If you have an imported chocolate or an Indian chocolate, I think it's time we support our local brands. And I think this goes across the value chain, whether it's a deep tech company, whether it's a consumer tech company. If we don't support our own companies, my CTO joined us from an American-Chinese company. And the camaraderie amongst Chinese companies to buy Chinese products, from Chinese consumers to buy Chinese products, is something that we need to build here. So that's this last thing.
No, absolutely. Fantastic point. We are running short on time, so I want to still complete. So Dr. Subhi, how can we get 100 in Mobis from India?
Thank you so much, Rahul. And thank you for that question. Actually, I'm reminded of a story. Raja Chola was walking around and they were building the Brideshwara temple, and he came across 3 people who were working with stones. So he asked the first one, "Aap kya kar rahe hain?" He said, "Main patthar tod raha hu." He asked the second one, he said, "Main patthar carve kar raha hu." He asked the third one, he said, "I'm creating stone and working with stone so that we can build the grandest, most excellent, the most stunning, the most amazing temple in the world." And that pride, the ability to take a bit of stone, take a bit of you, and create that culture of excellence. So whatever that we're doing, we will do it to our best ability, is what took InMobi from there to here. Until this date, even when we are 17 years old, we operate and behave like a startup. We're non-hierarchical. We make sure that we take a problem or a use case that's worthy of solving. And it's not just us. And that is why giving back and creating this community, I can't agree more more with Vrinda. Taking pride in what we're building, taking everybody along is not just a choice, it's an imperative. But having said that, there are 3 or 4 things that we really need to acknowledge. In 2014, we started scaling up a very ambitious program, and that's called BharatNet. It was earlier called No Fun. It was no fun for anybody. The idea is to connect all 600,000 villages and 250,000 village panchayats. Imagine the power of 1.4 crore Indians who are looking at this kind of scale in terms of literacy, language, local language content. What is it that we're looking at today? AI is going to be decidedly the biggest disruptor. The size and scale is more than the combined GDP of India and China. How do you make sure that you solve for this? So what has changed is there is no apathy. There's no policy paralysis. I went to Lucknow, and for 2.5 hours, all 272 elected MLAs sat and they listened in a workshop that addressed IoT, manufacturing, education, remedial education. They're hungry for models that are connecting citizens with governance. The same application for startups. So policy cannot be an afterthought. Law will always play catch up to industries which are disruptive. How do you make sure that the entire machinery of the government works for business? Profit is not an ugly word. When we started creating InMobi, and that was the example, we built purpose in the middle of profit. So this screen that you saw, we worked with the Election Commission day and night to make sure that young people who may not know that after you turn 18, you don't automatically get a voter ID card. We connected them with EPC centers. How do you take democracy to be participatory and not just representative? We made sure when digital arrests were happening, we were not bringing people online, we were ensuring we keep them safe. 18.2 billion impressions and connections on cyber safety, cyber security. And the last piece here is we are part of the US-India CEO Forum. We run something called the Working Group 7. It's about inclusive growth, it's about startups, it's about entrepreneurship. Top 15 Fortune 500 companies from the US, chaired by the Honorable Minister Piyush Ji. In about 12 years is the first time we've created the Nihit Innovation Network of Networks. We are connecting startups and MSMEs with large companies across India and US, and we're giving back to countries now. So it's about time that not only did we take pride in our story, we owned the space, we showed up, we stood up, and we made sure that the platform and agency and voice that we have earned after so long, and this journey that has been so powerful, we own that story and we're telling it right. So every single government delegation, and that's really the last input, Rahul. I've seen 50 member delegations from China, and I've seen like 2 people show up from our country, and sometimes our flag is down. It's very important to be in the room and at the table. If you're not going to be at the table, you will be on the menu. So do show up and do speak up. Thank you.
No, very interesting thoughts, and I think we are running short on time. So I think fantastic panel. I think we can go on for a couple of hours. I want to give like 4 or 5 things which...
I just want to add one thing, because in future, when you have Subi on the panel, just have her with the moderator, because she speaks very eloquently.
Yeah.
And at times a trifle long. I want to take on one point that Vrinda made. Don't introduce for your good any level of jingoism or nationalism. Consumers buy brands they like and brands that work for them. And let me tell you, given all your prowess, you will make that change. Indians will buy Indian products. Look at what happened to the automotive business. We bought Japanese, we bought Korean. Today, if you look at the automotive market, it's the Mahindras and the Tatas that are ruling the roost. I'm saying the moment you introduce nationalism and the flag, it creates a whole set of additional problems. Thank you.
No, very interesting thoughts. A couple of takeaways to conclude the session. I think the speakers will be around for those who may want to interact afterwards. We may not have time for Q&A. One, I think the startup ecosystem, which is still nascent, 15-year-old, we are still in teens. It is growing, it is propelling both from an employment perspective, creating business models. There is also a counter thought that we could do more, we need to do it faster, we need to do it at a bigger scale, both in India and the world, and how do we compete with many of the countries which may have a larger scale at this point in time. You saw on the panel the number of sectors, the diversity of the sectors that startups are starting to play a role. And I think that will continue to grow, that every single sector, both in India and globally, will be touched by startup in some shape or form, and we'll have the ability to lead and transform those sectors. So with that, I think I'll conclude the session. Thanks a lot to all the panelists for sharing their thoughts, and I'm sure you'll continue to stay around a little bit for anyone in the audience to interact further. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you on behalf of CII and on behalf of the audience present here. I thank the entire panel for a wonderful session. May I request the panel to step forward for a group photo, please? Can I also request Mr. Rahul to please give a token of appreciation to the panel members? May I also request Dr. Vrinda Kapoor to please give a token of appreciation to Mr. Rahul Garg. Thank you to the entire panel for the wonderful session. I request the audience to please remain seated as we start with the next session immediately. Thank you.